This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Stick around for more. How bad can a game's story be before it decays the foundation of the game itself? Even if the gameplay is the best you've ever experienced in the genre, is there a point where it just doesn't make up for a terrible narrative? That is the question that I was asking myself every couple of minutes while playing through Dying Light 2 in these past few weeks, and to be clear, this is my third time playing through it. What disappoints me more than anything is the stark difference between my experience in repeating Dying Light 2 compared to its predecessor. As a teenager, I put over 500 hours into Dying Light 1, hopping around both the urban and rural environments, and I beat the game somewhere around 20 times. I lost count. The more that I played it, the more I fell in love with the game, but Dying Light 2 is the complete opposite. Playing through it a third time felt more like an insult, a waste of time, a thorn in one's side. It was a joke. A bad, but also kind of hilarious joke. But why? I mean, what happened? Should this game have even happened? I think not. And I'm gonna explain to you why in this video. If you happen to like it, click the like button. And without further ado, let's get into it. Dying Light 2 was announced initially at E3 2018, and it was awesome! Or rather, it looked awesome. We were naive, of course, and as the face of Techland, Timon Smektela, said the game would release the following year, 2019, a lot of us looked forward to it. But 2019 came and went, and still no Dying Light 2. Fast forward to 2022, and it finally released. But why was it delayed 3 years? Well, a bevy of news articles and investigations will point to troubling development hell, and most impactful of all, terrible leadership. Also, the writer that literally presented the E3 trailer back in 2018, Chris Avellone, was accused of sexual misconduct and let go off the project, but furthermore, based on some Reddit detectives, this may not have been all that impactful in the grand scheme of things. If you don't know Chris Avellone, he was responsible for a lot of amazing stories in games such as Fallout 2, Fallout New Vegas, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and more, but for Dying Light 2, Avellone was more of a consultant. The core of the narrative was at least started by Techland's lead writer, who actually left the company a few months before the launch of Dying Light 2. The story had as many as 6 rewrites over its rocky production and ended up being the slop that we got and still have to this day. There is only one culprit for the disaster of Dying Light 2. One single individual that caused the entire project to be tarnished and stained by a confusing, egotistical, insecure, and fragile mindset. One person that always thought they were right, that micromanaged everyone down the chain beneath them, thinking they knew what's best. One tortured genius that was not only in a position of leadership, but also a marketer and a sound designer and artist. Hell, perhaps they would claim they could do just about every job they otherwise paid hundreds of cycled through employees to do for them. But always, this person knew best. Even with the failure of Dying Light 2, its significant bad press and tarnished reputation, the heavy criticism wasn't this person's fault. No. It was the fault of the consumers or the people who worked under them for not seeing the vision. So, who am I talking about? The CEO of Techland, Paweł Marchelka. You can read all about him in this report from The Gamer, which has many sources talking all about his failed leadership. Here's just one quote. "You're gonna get in fights with him no matter what," a source says. "It's just inevitable. I think he's just that kind of person who likes to have combativeness. If he doesn't like someone and he doesn't want to talk about it, you're done. If you push back one step too far, you're done. But you have to toe that line because he wants you to push back, and that's a good thing. But if you cross that line, that's the issue. When things go wrong, he's always looking for someone to blame. It's never his fault. How can it be his fault when he's a self-made billionaire? So why am I putting all this on him? He's just one guy, and that is right, he is one guy. One guy that rests at the top of the chain of command, and what that means is he is responsible for every single person employed at his company. Does responsibility mean peering over the shoulder of every employee, wandering around the office and critiquing their every move with his own ideas? No. Responsibility means you subordinate your ego and create a chain of leaders that manage small groups, and within each of those groups, leaders within them, and so on, managing down the chain, all of which to accomplish one goal: to win. Dying Light 2 did not win, and it solely did not win because of a complete failure of leadership. Company culture teaches you that you will never get anything approved, one source explains. This is actually a well-known joke at Techland that nothing is ever approved, including the name of the game. You can be told to redo some work you had approved for a month just because the CEO changed his mind after seeing something on the internet. Then you are being told that you work too slow and have no skills to deliver any work on time. Instead of helping propel his team in the right direction and giving them what they needed when they needed it, Marchevka would stand his ground, make sweeping, random changes seemingly based on emotion or a new interest. On the other hand, as the article also explained, the one area he couldn't touch was programming, because he fundamentally knew nothing about it. If he told a programmer they were fixing something wrong, all the programmer would have to do is ask him to do it himself. Ironically, the failure of leadership that destroyed Dying Light 2 is similar to the failure of leadership presented in the backstory of Dying Light 1. I'll be going much more into detail on this in a later video, but the original Haran virus in the game's story got as bad as it did because the president, at the time, demanded that, despite new dangerous reports of a rabies-like virus in the city, they had to allow the global athletics games to still take place, bringing thousands of people from around the world to congregate in one place. The very same place where murders were on the rise due to the virus until ultimately it reached the point of no return. The president's unwillingness to allow his idea to have less importance than the idea of the Commissioner of Health, who argued not to let the games take place as a safety precaution, was what caused the outbreak. It was solely on the president. And just like Dying Light 2's real-world situation, the blame rests on one individual, the leader. So with all of that out of the way, I'm sure you're wondering, what's actually wrong with Dying Light 2? I've been talking all about its horrible development and atrocious leadership at Techland, but is the story really all that bad?
I like that. We gotta go.
Oh no, we passed out for no fucking reason.
Wait, what?
Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad. But do you know what's not bad? Kyle Crane from Dying Light 1. Get out of here, man. I got this. Before Nettie explains just how bad the story of Dying Light 2 is, allow me to tell you about War Thunder. Unlike the Warlord Rise that I absolutely obliterated in Dying Light 1, War Thunder is easily the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. Are you lost? Anyway, you can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, or ships of up to like 10 nations, ranging from vehicles of the 1920s all the way up to the major jets and battle tanks of today, like modern day. Dude, how are you not burning from the UV right now? What the hell? Much like how you can absolutely obliterate zombies in Dying Light, War Thunder has an insane damage system that lets you damage individual components like fuel tanks, weapons, and even the crew inside the vehicles. Ugh, can you stop? Just let me finish this. There's also a dope X-ray view system for when you're attacking other vehicles, so you can see exactly what you're damaging when you're damaging it. Kinda like in Dying Light. Alright, I've had just about enough of this crap. War Thunder also has a new mobile version you can find on iOS and Android. Basically, it looks like that. And best of all, War Thunder is free to play. Whether you're on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile, there's really no reason not to sign up using my links either in the pinned comment or video description, especially since you can get a massive bonus pack for new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months on PC and consoles while using my link. The bonus pack includes multiple premium vehicles and an exclusive vehicle decorator too. So get ready to jump into War Thunder with its fantastic detailed vehicles, amazing graphics, and authentic sounds that'll make you feel like you're in the moment, battling for that sweet victory. Hey, do you think he's dead? He looks pretty dead. Yeah, I think we're good, man. You can see yourself out over there. Yeah, all right. Anyway. Welcome to Dying Light 2. Starting off with the intro to the game, it helps explain that the virus in Dying Light 1 ended up being solved after the GRE developed a cure, but of course humanity's bad, so the GRE continued to develop secret military research crap using the virus, otherwise known as THV, and a variant escaped into the world once more. This time though in an event known as The Fall, basically most of the world completely collapsed. Any remaining survivors are tiny in number and live in small outposts scattered around the globe with little means of communication. Because said communication became so scarce, these people called pilgrims started venturing out, traveling between settlements to deliver messages and stuff. After a bunch of major cities were bombed by missiles that basically killed everything inside of them, there's pretty much only one major city that still exists in the world that has, surviving humans in it, known as Villador. Like Haran from the first game, it also has giant walls surrounding the entire thing, protecting it from the outside. Unfortunately, this doesn't stop infected by any means, and there are a lot inside too, which makes me wonder why and how it's even functional and survivable when the other cities aren't, unless literally every single city was in fact carpet bombed. It genuinely seems like there are as many zombies inside this damn city than there are piled up World War Z style on the outside, but let's just ignore that for now. 98% of humanity has been wiped out or turned into zombies, and the rest are just trying to stay human.
He said it!
It's been 15 years since the fall, and you begin through the perspective of a guy named Aiden, who happens to be one of those pilgrims I just mentioned. You're running for your damn life from some infected just before making a big old jump over a destroyed bridge. This is the tutorial, and it begins with Spike, this dude from Dying Light 1 that is here purely for nostalgia bait. But actually, how did he get here? Well, you see, at the end of the first game, they later decided that Spike actually led a bunch of survivors out of Haran and saved the day, but that doesn't matter now because you're running through the forest picking chamomile to make first aid bandages until you reach an abandoned hillside compound or penthouse. You head inside and then Spike says something a little strange.
I think it's time we parted ways.
What did he mean by that part way? Like,
What do you mean by that?
I have no idea what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah, what do you mean
He's
by
still
that?
here. He mean he's splitting up, or did he mean he's like leaving and going home? Like,
And you know our saying, if you're starting to worry about someone, it means it's time to go. Let's hope we get that lucky too. I'll see what's upstairs.
You quickly realize that this is the final resting place for a whole party of people. They all decided that because of the outbreak, they were going to have one spectacular final party before ending it all simultaneously. Good times. You and Spike have a conversation on the top part of the building, talking about old times. Spike eventually tells you that he tracked a guy down that has some connection to a man named Waltz. All that Aiden knows is that Waltz is some dude that knows how to find his sister Mia, because as far as he knows, Waltz experimented on him as a kid. And because Mia was with him as a kid, therefore, Waltz must know where she is. Spike says the informant is in Villador, and to contact him, you need to head to a radio tower nearby. So you say goodbye to Spike and take a hop off a cliff into a lake.
So, guys, we did it.
From there, you do some zombie killing and parkour before being introduced to your first special infected, this crazy bitch that hitches a ride on zombies like some kind of jockey. Anyway, you turn on the power at the radio station and pass out before getting your first taste of what will very quickly become the most annoying cutscene to sit through. This is the first of many flashbacks to when you and Mia were kids in a facility where they do human testing. At least that's what it appeared to show, as Aiden is separated from Mia. Then you wake up. After contacting the informant Spike mentioned, he starts lore dumping on you, and then you travel to the rendezvous point to meet him. So far, this seems pretty tame, huh? Oh, just you wait.
why is he banging the door, bro? Can we just talk about how it's like, damn, this doesn't look good. It's like corpses everywhere, fresh blood, like in a dark train station, and he gets to a metal door that's locked, and he goes, boom, boom, boom. It's like, you know that meme of the guy destroying his keyboard?
So now you're bit, infected by the volatile. Aiden, somehow avoiding getting bitten his entire life, has at last partaken. Of course, not by his own free will. Nonetheless, this guy, the informant, saves you right before you seize out, and the guy gets captured by some seemingly random thugs. You wake up and chase after them, beating up the thugs, and then, as it turns out, Waltz is nearby, and he's the leader of the thugs, and the informant says that Waltz is way too strong, so he tells you to get into a vent to escape, but then instead of, reasonably going with you into the vent, he just lets himself get disemboweled by Waltz, which doesn't even matter in the end because he sees you anyway before you make a mad dash to safety. Oh yeah, and before the guy died, he gave you a secret item, this GRE access key that can interface with tons of GRE technology and opens doors and things. It becomes a pretty big thing in the story. Once Aiden escapes the sewers, it turns out he pops his head up right into the middle of Villador where the people see him clearly infected and namely without a biomarker, this thingy that they all wear on the wrists to show if they're turning or not. Then they decide to execute him as fast as possible. We love the Middle Ages, don't we? But before you can finally die at last, you get saved. Who saves you? None other than Dark XQC looking ass Hakon. He brings your slobbering ass over to one of his hideouts with these two women that beat you up with a bat, reasonably so, because you're trying to basically kill them. You're like in the process of turning into a zombie. Hakon's inhibitors help stave off the inevitable, and eventually, after passing out, you wake up and you go on an adventure around the city with him. The rest of the prologue basically has you running around the city as nightfall approaches, before you eventually sneak into an old GRE hospital with Hakon to find a biomarker so that Aiden can properly assimilate into the local population. We get another childhood flashback, which, if anything, for my friends and I, made us care less and less about Aiden and Mia as characters, the more that they shoved the random, meaningless scenes into our faces. Dude, the more times that I have to look at these children, the more I just want to, like, burn down an orphanage.
Career saved, skill check successful.
You get your biomarker and are then on your way into the main part of the game. From here, I'll describe things in a bit more of a segmented way, since it would take hours to explain the minutiae of the entire incoherent plot that this game comprises. So, welcome to Villador. One of the most egregious aspects of Dying Light 2's story isn't the actual narrative itself, but the design of cutscenes. These infamous things that are all too familiar to gamers, but are typically only bad when they're actually noticeable. You know, like when they happen constantly and go on for up to 5 minutes at a time while you're sat there painfully watching a character yap to your face about meaningless lore or trauma dumps that you could really care less about because you'd much rather be turning zombies into pulp with your metal pipe. My first example of this is the introduction to a mostly meaningless character named Carl. It takes a minute to even realize he's the one speaking, since the first time you meet him, he's crouched on the ground 20 feet in front of you, giving a grand speech to the dirt until he eventually turns around and greets you. This is a lazy, uninspired, and boring way to introduce a character. I mean, what if, instead of confusing the player, you had Carl giving the speech, elevated on a platform above a crowd to immediately communicate what's happening, instead of his words of wisdom being delivered to the ground?
Do not listen to the ideologies preached by fools calling for reconstruction.
Who is
There
talking?
will be no rebuilding.
Yeah, who's Carl?
Who the fuck is Carl?
This guy?
Is this
Coral?
fucking Carl? Is it Carl Mr. Beast?
Is it Coral from The Walking Dead?
Coral? Dude, that was
Yeah, I'm
so
still alive.
fucking weird.
Despite your best efforts.
Like some random guy just talking to us.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Another example of atrocious cutscene design is when characters just randomly walk off screen or disappear and reappear for seemingly no reason. The player is not stupid. They can catch on to when this happens, and when there's no justifiable reason for it, significant attention is drawn to it. This is not what you want in a game, especially if you're trying to make the characters relatable instead of comically bizarre teleporting wizards that exist solely for the purpose of having the player press F on them to initiate a mind-numbing cutscene. We were at a point in the story where we needed to find and speak to one of the survivor leaders, Sophie. The quest marker told us to talk to random people around this camp to find where she had gone. So after talking to a couple of them, she then randomly appeared out of nowhere, which immediately begged the question, what was the point of asking them if not to force the player to needlessly interact with these characters in an attempt to either familiarize the player with them or somehow make us care more about them? Neither of these really worked because this is not how you make the player care about the characters.
It's fucking growling, dude.
He's growling at us. Bro, he's like the Ark survivor. Dude, it's crazy.
I was so sad when I learned that his
Sophie
sister
died.
got lost.
Sorry.
I was
He
so
found
sad
his
that he
sister.
found out that his sister is alive.
Bro, they make these flashbacks like it's supposed to make me like sad or something. It's like
I don't care.
it's like
80, I'm on fire. 80.
these are so
Oh,
devoid
no,
of
you're-
emotion.
You're on
dude.
fire. Anyway.
Wait, what? Why were we asking where she
What?
is?
She's
The
literally here.
What?
I'm here.
After we turned around, frustrated at the amount of yapping we had to listen through, and spoke to Sophie, she yapped and yapped until Barney distracted us for a millisecond to talk about how much alcohol his dumbass could consume without dying. Then Aiden asked this infamous question, "Where's Sophie?" To which Barney said, "Oh yeah, she's just over there."
Where's Sophie?
There.
What?
on the
What?
rooftop. I'm watching you, pilgrim.
Where'd
What?
she go?
We were just talking to her.
Wait, where'd she go?
How did
dude,
she
must
get
be-
over there?
Where's Sophie, bro?
Bro,
Dude, she
where
must-
is
she must,
Sophie?
she must be the best parkourer here, dude. 30 seconds, she's gone.
Like,
Where is she?
And it's like, dude, she was just next to us. Why is she suddenly on a random building 100 meters away? What is happening? Another fantastic example of puzzling cutscene design is the way that you handle blowing up the windmill, at least if you end up siding with the survivors. The game has you taking the bombs that Alberto makes, then climbing up the poorly designed windmill tower, planting them, and hopping off. You and Alberto blow it up, but oh no, it wasn't enough bombs, apparently. His calculations were off, so the whole windmill just doesn't even really move an inch. Then he hands you an armed bomb that he says could blow up at any moment, and you're expected to then quickly parkour back up the windmill to the very top to plant this bomb before jumping off as the whole thing explodes.
Why didn't they just tell us to, like,
Okay, well, let's race.
What is
What
the-
we got?
Let's go, mamma mia.
what is actually the point?
Following some board meeting, this certainly could have seemed cool. In practice, it's more annoying than anything. And of course, the fact that you had to do this seemed to be for the sole purpose of causing Alberto over here to then get killed. You show up for the second time, kill some PKers that had just slaughtered him, and he says his last words, which actually made me feel anything at all. For the first time in the game, this character actually made me feel for him because he showed he didn't just tell.
Quit the bullshit, Aiden. I'm not that adult. Tell everyone we pulled this off thanks to Vincenzo. Okay?
In case it wasn't obvious, this old man, in his dying breath, wanted one thing and one thing only: for his son, Vincenzo, to get the credit for the windmill's destruction. All he wanted was for his son to be able to truly succeed in the world, not shackled by taking care of his old dad. Alberto felt bad for holding his son back, needing, extra care from him. And this right here is how you write characters. Not that I'm some expert, I'm certainly not, but the impact that Alberto's death had and how the subtext of what he's saying communicates a deeply human thing that players can actually latch onto. Giving credit to someone else, his son, puts the rest of the game to shame, because the whole time I played, there was no other character that made me feel this sad. Whether they won or they lost, or whether they lived or died. Alberto's last moment is sad not just because of his message, but because it's a constant reminder of what this game could have been, how it could have made us care more, but ultimately instead we got more moments like this.
You gotta pick your friends better.
Why are you hunting Hakon? Is this about killing Lucas or?
Tell Hakon that it's not over yet.
Hey, wait! Ah.
What?
Our first introduction to Lawan doesn't make you interested in the character or care for her. Instead, it's clear the message was this: make it cool, bro. Like cool. Like she's falling off backwards off the building, and she's gesturing that she's like watching you, and then she just parachutes away with an almost comical amount of speed, threading these buildings. Like what?
Just like the most like melodramatic shit ever to like have her like fall off the building and like
Hakon, she got away.
somehow perfectly parachute between the two buildings that like
Similar to this moment, we have the point where you finally confront Waltz after he stole your GRE key. So then you gotta run because Lawan really pissed him off, and this right here might be the most ridiculous cutscene-ridden part of the entire game because of one thing and one thing only: doors!
Bro, I like how we are able to deal with infected so
What?
easily throughout the entire game, like, and then, like, but this guy's chasing us, guys. We have to run, guys. No action. Is there any actual, like, reasoning behind the reason we can't fight him? Or is it just, like,
Lawan is
Why did
just
she
a
shut the
serial
door,
teleporting
bro? What?
being. Dude,
She's like trying to kill you.
why does every
what
door
the
require-
fuck?
Why? Stop
Stop
shutting the
shutting
door.
The number of doors that Lawan runs through and then suddenly closes behind her drove me to levels of insanity that I didn't think were possible. She just saved us for some reason. So why is she now trying to get us killed? And furthermore, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Literally the same animations just used again and again. Just why? The last example of a truly horribly done cutscene is a bit later on when you're tasked with going up a dangerous tower. You manage to get the power on, then head into an elevator with some PK soldiers that you've literally just met. Though right before you do go in the elevator, the game gives you the chance to hang out with them for a few minutes as if you would at all be inclined to do so, and as if they would even make you care any more about them as characters than if you just decided to turn down the beer and go to sleep. Nonetheless, you're heading up the elevator when the power cuts off.
It's like that scene in Avengers where like Captain America's in the fucking elevator.
Hey, you guys want to hear a joke?
No, where's Bowski? Fuck, please.
I'm begging you. I'll give you my last
Oh, Hydra.
Dumbass.
We're
One like this.
Yeah, this looks like a perfectly safe place.
Where's Bowski? Recon.
well, goodbye, Wazowski.
No, he'll be fine. It's
Looks clear.
looks clear.
Yeah, looks good. Oh my god.
Oh, you know what's crazy? They
Yeah.
could have made this scene so cool.
This cutscene is the epitome of the horrible writing of this game. It is the perfect example that illustrates why Dying Light 2's story is so yuck. It expects you to care about characters that it barely lets you spend any time with, nor gives you any reason to care about. Joe Biden over here being the one exception to the rule. And then after it thinks you care, it puts them in some grand set piece and either kills or wounds them. Instead of getting the results that Paweł Maciejewska probably thought they would garner, these scenes ended up being the most melodramatic moments in the story. But nothing is more melodramatic than what I call these sloppy knockouts. As illustrated not long after your entire elevator crew gets wiped out because Aiden just falls over and collapses, which by the way happens more times than the many hundreds of times you've likely spammed the skip button in most cutscenes. After your team is all killed by these special infected that are then introduced, these bloater types, you then rampage around killing a bunch of zombies in this objective survive area before you go into a zombie mode, which Aiden just randomly does when it's convenient for the story, but ultimately you then pass out. After you wake up, all the zombies are dead, and there are no longer infinite amounts of them pouring out of every nook and cranny in the area. This is just one example of how the game moves you into new story segments and waves away threats by utilizing the sloppy knockout. They also utilize this truly innovative mechanic when they want a character to disappear or appear, going from one area to another, like in the part with Luan earlier in the game, right after you just escaped Waltz. That one pretty much speaks for itself.
I like that. We gotta go.
Oh no, we passed out for no fucking reason.
Wait, what?
We couldn't invest in development resources to load the next area, so now you're here, bro.
Did she just leave and then I passed out?
She just walked away and then Aiden's just like,
I thought you were gone.
You left us.
I thought you were gone. I saw it. You passed out behind me. I just walked away though. Thought you were gone though.
The last and most egregious way I found that they force the sloppy knockout on you is when the game wants to teleport you, Aiden, from one place to an entirely different place in the map, so that they can kind of nudge you in one direction or another. This comes across as lazy, uninspired, and most of all, sloppy. Now, with that said, I think it's important to acknowledge that this whole main character going unconscious thing is technically lore accurate. Yes, that's right. If you read Dying Light Nightmare Row, an official novel set as a prequel to Dying Light 1, the main character it follows, Mel, ends up passing out many times throughout her exhausting fight through Haran to find her brother. But the difference between those attacks and Aiden's attacks, or even Kyle Crane's attacks that happened very similarly in the first game, is that in Dying Light 2, these happen at times that usually do not serve the narrative whatsoever, and are placed either randomly or to lazily force the player to do something or go somewhere. The one time that the sloppy knockout is used effectively at all is when Aiden starts to have his zombie attack moment while fighting Waltz, and then ends up ripping apart his doctor friend Veronica, which is pretty brutal, so it's probably best I don't show this one. It's almost as bad as what we did to Damien.
You're through, Damien.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Holy shit. Schizo powers, go!
My toes is
My toes is...
just gonna fucking beat me.
Oh my god!
You ever just...
Guys, he's dead, guys.
you ever just...
Oh my god, his brain...
Needless to say, these sloppy knockouts wouldn't be a problem if they simply weren't sloppy. But you know what's even sloppier? Bugs. And in multiplayer, oh, there are a lot of them. Now, bugs in games are usually something I find comical. Hell, if they're visual, I'm usually laughing my ass off, having a good time either intentionally triggering them for fun or taking screenshots and videos to share around. But when bugs become game-breaking, soft-locking progress, I don't think there's a single person in the world who enjoys that. My two friends and I experienced several of these soft locking bugs along the way, and compared to Dying Light 1, which is virtually flawless when it comes to bugs, this is insulting, especially when Dying Light 2 has been out for 3 years by now.
How do I go straight?
You gotta press S so you can hover forward.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's kind of
Same control in every glider game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've.
And Strider. This game's broken.
The frequency of bugs, at least in multiplayer, further shows that not only was the story of Dying Light 2 fragmented and tarnished as a result of poor leadership, but so too was the stability of the game itself. Where's the Mr. Zombie? The Mr. Beast? What are we?
Kill the demolisher on the roof.
Oh yeah, kill the demolisher.
Yeah, the demolisher that's right here.
I hear an enemy.
Where?
I heard him.
Look at him! Wait, look at him! Look at him!
What the fuck? Bro, how did you fucking get there? What the fuck? What if we just all die at once? We need multiple bugs. While you'd expect bugs to exist in any game, Dying Light 2 promised something else that not a lot of games have the boldness to do, let alone deliver on. That being choices. The major choices that you can make in the game do change things, but the changes they make are mostly insignificant. They influence primarily gameplay, such as what things you're going to unlock if you give a water tower or electrical facility to the survivors or the peacekeepers. As far as the story goes, most major choices don't have a huge, at least noticeable influence on the characters, especially because the story was rewritten and fragmented, then pieced back together so many times in development that there are plot holes all over the place. One of the most obvious ones being that if you side with the survivors in the first area of the game, Old Villador, even openly going to war with them by blowing up their windmill, the peacekeepers in the later area, the central loop, literally do not care. In fact, they don't even know anything about the windmill. And chalking this up to, oh, they can't communicate via radio, is just not a good excuse, when word of mouth spreads just as fast in a damn city where people are running around everywhere. On the other hand, some choices like near the end of the game where you can drain the dam will unlock an entirely new area of the map, and that, for what it's worth, is pretty neat. The choices also influence the endings, but said endings are lackluster, short, and not satisfying in the least bit. They basically just show whether or not the city was taken over by bandits, survivors, or the peacekeepers. Or, on the other hand, whether the city was just completely missile-striked. At the end, Aiden is always just seen walking away from Villador either by himself or alongside Lawan or Hakon. Beyond the endings, because of the rest of the game's insignificant choices, it kind of muddies the whole system altogether of choice, because presumably you would want consistency in your world to actually immerse the player, right? But speaking of immersion, the one area this game really shines is Dying Light 2's gameplay is single-handedly what has kept the game from being a complete universal flop. After the couple of years they've spent ironing out most of the kinks that the game launched with, nowadays in 2025, it's genuinely a pretty fun experience if you can somehow completely abort the story from your mind. My friends and I had a blast at certain moments of combat or parkour, and that's probably because the CEO had less to do with the actual programming responsible for how the game feels to play. There may be some that can truly forget about the story and just appreciate the game for how it plays, but how many people can actually do that? Despite how fun the gameplay is, does the story ultimately tarnish that fun? That's something that was on my mind a lot, and my friends and I came to our own conclusion that it does, at least for us. If I didn't have them to keep me somewhat sane throughout playing the game for a third time, I absolutely would not have been able to do it. It was so painfully repetitive, frustrating at times just to get through the story, trying to discern what dialogue was actually important in a character's 10-minute long yap session, or causing a cutscene to play again and again and again, mixed in with the constant, uninspired melodrama. It was just too much of nothing of substance. So that's where I'm curious. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below what you've experienced with the story of Dying Light 2, and if you think it actually manages to ruin the game because of how badly designed it ended up being. Another thing I'm curious about is what this all means for the game that a lot of us are waiting for, Dying Light the Beast. Announced in 2024, Dying Light the Beast is a prequel to Dying Light 2, set 13 years after the first game's events. And I've seen huge positive reception for this because, hey, you play as Kyle Crane. I really do hope that leadership at Techland has truly learned from the mistakes of Dying Light 2 so that the Beast can actually be a real successor to Dying Light 1 with an acceptable story instead of the mediocre, fragmented, and depressing result we got with 2. Techland, I'm really hoping for the former. Most of all though, will Dying Light the Beast finally answer the question that we've all been dying to know?
Where's Sophie?
Daddy! Hello? I think he's gone. Just wanted to thank War Thunder for sponsoring this video and to remind you guys that War Thunder is waiting for you. Sign up with my link in the description, play, and get your bonus. Whether you're on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile, go check it out. Oh, crap. I think I pissed off the whole family. Guys, it's a limited time thing, so don't miss getting in on the War Thunder pack. Oh, God, oh, shit. Oh, God. Where's that bag of rusty knives when I need it? If you ended up liking this video, click the like button below. It really helps to support the channel, and also stay tuned for a much more in-depth Dying Light video coming this summer. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and goodbye.